Okay, so 1 hour, if I talk really fast, 45 minutes, no, I'm joking, get you guys out of here. So the discussion we're gonna have today is around the digital transformation, specifically around transitioning from paper processes to electronic PeopleSoft processes. As I did the opening session yesterday, you know, one of the big things we do is around helping organizations really automate, streamline their business processes. So today I'm going to take that discussion a little further than the higher level that I kept it at yesterday. We'll do some intros. I'll talk a little bit about that overview. We'll take a look at some real use cases on what other clients have done, and then we'll summarize it and open up for Q&A. And since the group is small, I would definitely say make this your session. Have questions along the way, ask it. We'll take the questions and no problem answering any questions. So far I haven't met a question I haven't been able to answer. So let me do a quick show of hands here. How many of you are on the HCM side? 1, 2, 3, okay.
Payroll.
Are you financials?
Technical.
Technical, okay. So it seems like my audience on the functional side is really on the HCM side. And then technical, do you support everything?
Correct.
Or HCM only, HCM and financials? And
We don't have financials.
okay.
We've got time and labor, payroll,
All
human
HCM,
resources.
yes, okay. All right, I got an HCM audience. I know where to hold that at too. Okay, so we'll do intros, go through this, go through some use cases, and find a few things. So I talked about this yesterday. Just know that with my 20 plus years, I think it's been 20 plus years with PeopleSoft, that we are an Oracle PeopleSoft partner. The first part up there is around traditional services that many partners do, but where we like to differentiate ourselves is the second part here. And that's really, where's my cursor? Do you see it? Where is the cursor, huh? No cursor over there, huh? It's not moving. Let's try this. See what happens. Okay. Well, then I'll have to use my fingers and point. But the second part here is around, our add-on solutions that are inside of PeopleSoft. And that is part of the solution that we provide to our customers, is trying to link all of those business processes together with add-on solutions that are within PeopleSoft that focus on that automation. So examples, especially for the HR folks, onboarding, offboarding, I-9, and then on the financial side, since there's no one here, we can help automate year-end processes, month-end processes, etc. I went through this yesterday, and I think you guys, heard that discussion in there, so I'll put it back out here. But I think the big one for us is really around the digital service delivery, because that is really where most organizations are trying to figure out how to get rid of that paper process, those manual processes, and bring everything online. And then you add to it the mobility part of it, because that's the reality. I gave you guys the stats yesterday. I don't need to go through those today. However, between bringing it online and being able to do it mobile, if you take a look at the PeopleSoft product strategy, that's kind of where they're heading, and it probably is where the industry and the trends are with users out there today. So how does the software be able to support what you're doing today? And this picture here of this gentleman being buried in paper, reality is that it's still a true fact out there, even though you all are on PeopleSoft. Let me ask you, since most of you are in HR, you still have paper in your process? Yes. Where is your paper? I'm curious. Where's the main area? Everywhere?
I do payroll, so.
You do payroll. Do you have paper in there? Like people give you comp change forms and direct deposit forms and?
Yep.
I know what you get. Yeah, you get it all. State tax changes, marital changes. All right. What about in your area?
Yeah, in addition to that, in our area we have a big hourly population.
Hourly, okay.
So hourly population basically, especially across the world, is still kind of handling paper forms or even an address change.
Okay. And you're a global organization as well? Okay. And what about you, ma'am?
At payroll, we have it for state tax and garnishments. I don't know if there's any.
Garnishments, okay. You fill in a paper form to get that garnishment in the system?
No, it's okay.
To do the garnishment, okay, and there doesn't go anywhere else, oh my goodness, okay.
Yeah, we were hoping to scan or something like that, but certainly state tax forms, we've gotten rid of most everything else.
Okay.
Just because-
And why are your state tax forms still paper then, if you've gotten rid of everything else? People still fill those in, your state tax forms, and hand them to
They
you?
just, people stop just delivering people, you could do
I
state
know.
tax forms online yesterday or.
Yeah, with the latest,
So, otherwise you need them paper, unless
Yeah.
you do another vendor.
yeah,
So,
okay.
we
And
don't
we
have
have
any
helped clients do that, we support all 35 state withholding forms, because we know every year we gotta go through them.
But hand people, we just went into other states in March.
So you have that challenge also of work and live. They might work in one state, live in the other, so you need to get 2 forms filled in and process that. Okay, understood. And you? No, he's with us.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, we're still in 8.9.
Oh!
Yeah, and I work for the government.
Which
and
government?
Because now you're.
Federal?
Federal, yes.
right.
And so we are just paper-based in every department,
Oh, I understand.
every department.
Yeah. What department do you work?
I am currently on the HRIS team.
Yeah. Of what department? Like Department of Commerce?
Oh, it's Department of the Navy.
Oh, the Navy.
Yeah,
Our Navy is paper-based?
yes,
Oh,
yeah, we are paper-based.
Yeah.
Our payroll is paper, everything.
wow. Okay.
Benefits,
Paper-based.
paper-based.
Well, what's interesting, I'll share this story. We did a project at Department of State, which is the federal government. And, you know, here I am pitching electronic and all that, and I walk in with my laptop, right? Everything I need is on my laptop. You can't open up your laptop, right? So everybody comes to the meeting with gigantic binders of paper. You know, whether it's a meeting, whether it's a file, they come in with these big binders, and they're working on a project with us to remove paper, and the irony is that they have paper all over the place.
That is our case.
And they don't even use technology to allow them to get rid of that paper very easily. As simple as a laptop to have a document on it to see it electronically, so, yeah, interesting. Okay, and on the IT side, do you have to deal with all this?
Well, there may be forms that they still use paper in Human Resources Department. I was just scanning my brain to try to think of some as you were talking. I couldn't think of any, but one thing that is key that they want to do is bring in our document automation systems to PeopleSign, electronic document retention systems like
Okay.
OnBase, for instance.
Yes, yes. And so that we see a lot of on the back end of transactions, or the back end of business processes to store those documents where people used to scan those documents, so image them and put it in the system. So I actually have a little discussion on that too. So. Okay, so yep, it sounds like all of you guys are here for a reason at 4:30 on Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day today is. But you know, that continues to be the challenge. And I went through these stats yesterday, so you could just take a quick look at it. But there's a cost to it, right? There's a cost of inefficiency, there's a cost of time, there's a cost of inaccuracy, loss of productivity, more resources when you have fewer resources to do more work. So there's a lot of things that come with that in addition to some of these stats here regarding paper processes. So, you know, we go out and we try to work, and I would say the Navy, you know, this is probably a lot of you, if you take a look at it, manual and paper processes, whether you're manual, whether your system today might be hard and everything's on paper, you have no status, because when it's on paper, it's hard to know where that status is. And we'll talk about that a little when I show you a use case, because if I spill coffee on it, or I spill water on it, and it just kind of, the ink all goes bad, the paper tears, that's your transaction right there. So while it's in paper form, there's also no visibility of that status. So you don't know where it is. It might be on Doris's desk, it might be on Kirk's desk. So trying to track it down is a challenge. And there's too much paper, right? Everything takes too long, and because they fill it in on paper and somebody has to key it in, it's a duplicate effort. So we're gonna look at how to change that paradigm, whether it's something you do within your own environment, with technology and tools on PeopleSoft, or look at other third-party solutions to help. You know, where we've been working with clients is to try to take them to this more streamlined online process. So get rid of that paper, bring it online. Give you reporting tools to find that status. You know, so if you've got 5 transactions that start and they're in different states, wouldn't it be great to be able to have a reporting tool to look at where they are, as opposed to wonder if I spilled coffee on it on my desk. The other thing is, when you bring it online, have the ability to have an audit trail of the electronic documents, right? So date time stamp. When your auditors come in, the worst thing you want to do is be stressed out and run for the file cabinet and look for those documents, and they ask for something, you don't know where it is. You want it all on the system, and you want to have electronic signature and an audit trail on everything you do against it, because when they start to audit you, they see you have it, they'll go away. That's what we hear. But when they see that you don't have it, they'll keep asking questions, and you're going to keep running to go find more documents. So that has really helped, you know, that credibility of you've got your systems all in place and have a full audit trail. And at the end of the day, reduce admin time and effort. So for our folks that are still dealing with paper, you see that clean desk and that smiley face, that's kind of what we really want to have you be doing, is focus on more online activities and not process paper, but be a lot more productive and efficient. Since nobody's in here on financials, I'm going to skip this part unless you guys want to talk about it. But there are some commonalities that I want to show. You see this one here, even though it says finance processes take too long and are too resource intensive, it's really not just finance. I'm sure there are those in HR. The fact that you're doing garnishments separately, right? So you could take that word finance off, even though the study was finance, and really apply it across the enterprise, whether it's HCM or whether it's financials or whether it's procurement. And the fact that everybody wants information immediately. So if it's on paper, it's hard to get it. If it's in the system, you got that date time, you know where that transaction is, that's going to help it. And then all of these others are all reasons as well, but I think those are the two at the top there that for me really doesn't matter if it's financials, procurement, or HCM. Those are the same challenges we see across the different enterprise applications, especially on PeopleSoft. And we actually do a lot with the finance area, because I'll tell you the common challenge there is transactions are too complex. Whereas on the HR side, there are too many steps and they're too simple and too manual intensive. So it's like two different paradigms, but yet it's the same challenge that people have. And then this is on the financial side, so I'm going to skip this one, but you can see if you've got more automated, those are your blue bars there, and that's where the responses are much higher if you do have a more digital environment system to give you more optimal efficiency. But this was a financial study. So at the end, you know, these business value, a lot of times organizations say, you know, like the Navy, help me make a business case so that I can at least present to management why we need to try to make some changes. And I would say that these business values here and benefits, probably in all cases, there's a value to it. If you take a look, you're bound to reduce costs. You will get your ROI back on any kind of automation initiative. There's an investment of time, people, and some dollars up front, but the return on that is definitely there, and it should result in long-term reduction of operating costs. Your people should be more productive. If it's automated, it's in the system, you don't need to run it, that is going to be there. And if it's in the system, the next two objectives are obtained as well, that data security. It's very, I talked about it yesterday, Data, especially on these devices and everything, it's very, very sensitive in the government, the federal government, very, very sensitive. Making sure you have improved data security and high quality. What do I mean by the high quality? Well, if I fill in a piece of paper, I have bad handwriting, okay? Or you can't read my writing, or you type in fat finger like I do. And that causes quality issues with your data going in the system. All those different scenarios, if you're reading off a paper, it's going to cause some level of quality. The other thing is, if you took that piece of paper and put that paper in the system, it will also enforce the fields you require and validate those fields. So you're going to get a higher quality of data on your required fields. So let's say for payroll, since I got a lot of payroll folks in here, that I work and live in 2 different states. Well, you want the system to force that condition that I got to fill in too. And I need to fill in the form that California requires the way California requires it, and Nevada, no state tax there, fill in that form appropriately. But you can't do that on paper because not everybody knows how to fill it in. You could give it to them, they go, why am I filling in Nevada? I live in California, return it back to you blank. Now you're going to chase them down again, right? So that's the reality of a paper process. So you should get that higher quality data, and your time is reduced. You should be more productive. You should get rid of those manual process. Your employees, in the case here of HR, or your customers are going to get better service level. The next area, the compliance. Believe it or not, there's a lot of room for error in paper processes around enforcing compliance. If you have to get self-identification collected, if you have to have ACA requirements collected, and it's on paper and I choose not to fill it in, you're going to either chase me down or you're going to have some problems in your reporting. So use the system to automate that as well and gain your compliance. And then we're all environmentally sound, which we all want to do, on this globe. And then you add this level to it that I talked about yesterday. I won't go through it again today, but you add this level to it. And then now, this is kind of where people expect your software to be, and you're still in a paper world. You cannot get to this if you don't transition. And so that's the other part. If you need to make a business case, take it and say, now people can do things anywhere, everywhere, on any device, and you can take advantage of mobile responsive capability that PeopleSoft is offering through technology or through applications to be able to allow that more digital transformation of your organization. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to do in an organization. I will say in the federal government, it's really hard. Because that change management, first you got to get the top to agree, and second you've got to get change management within your organization. And the last thing you want to do is make these changes and people still want their paper forms, because that does happen to us in our implementation. But what we have to do is get them to learn the system, understand the change, the value, and hope over time they don't print it out and create that paper folder. Because they don't have to. We already have it in the system. She's smiling because that is what we see out there. So, what industry are you in?
Automotive. But we have a few unions that are against e-pakes. We're trying to do the...
Oh yeah, automotive. I don't want to say that's an easy one either. What about you? Automotive. I forgot about that.
The unions want their paper.
Huh?
They said the union people want their paper.
Yeah,
all of our
change
salaried people
management.
are all, everything's online.
Change management there, and then the question is, the age group that relies on that paper. Remember I showed you that. Who uses mobile devices now, and who, the baby boomers, right? Wait for them all to roll off or something like that so that you can make that change, right? But that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying here, organizations are trying to make that move, but I'm not saying it's easy, because we go in and try to help clients do it, and we can run up against all the brick walls that you do as well. Assuming they already have the budget to do it, you still are running into that change management. And, it just takes some really assertive, give it a try, train you, take a look, see your paper, here it is in the system, it's all there, right? So we want to continue to do that. And then for my financial people, I didn't want to leave them out, so I left that there. So I'm gonna go through a couple case studies. These are some common case studies that we see, and I bet you as you're going through it, they apply to HR, they apply to financials. I kept them pretty generic, but they're a common business process, and you can use technology to be able to change. And we'll talk later about, do you try to change everything, or what I call, look for those opportunities to get a big bang for the buck. Because where you have the biggest pain, try to solve that, but don't try to boil the ocean, because that's hard to do as well too. So I'll show you this business process that is very, very common, okay? So it starts out with paper. Somebody has to complete something on paper, whether it's a state form, whether it is a job request, a position, whether it is a termination, a transfer, whatever, a comp change, they started out with paper. And I do see this, I don't know in the automotive, in the federal, I think it's there. And what's your industry?
Healthcare.
Oh, healthcare. Now, I want to say you guys are more progressive.
It takes some fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I want to say healthcare, you know, I go in a doctor's office, now that's more the client side, but I go in a doctor's office now, and they walk in with an iPad,
Yeah.
right? And you like go, where's that big gigantic folder you used to come in with, right? So I want to say healthcare from an industry perspective.
They went in with their feet dragging.
Yeah, maybe on the back office they're dragging, but on the front, the client side definitely moving. And what's your industry, sir?
It's city municipal.
Okay.
City Spokane.
Okay, so public sector. Yeah, you're challenged too.
There are a few hurdles.
Yeah, but maybe you guys have gotten rid of them. There's some public sector that are, you know, trying to be more progressive and, you know, get rid of it because the counties, the cities are, you know, challenged with budgets, and that's the way they look for it is, how do I reduce my budget, right, if I could be more efficient, you know, because they're not getting budget. So a very common one is they actually use interoffice mail, or they run it across the buildings, or however, it is literally bringing that form. She's shaking her head. Yes, in federal, right? So it brings it to the first approver, because somebody has to approve that transaction. That person reviews it and says, the form's filled in incomplete, right? So they send it back. And it goes back through interoffice, and you're like going, transaction started yesterday, and it's 5 days later, where is it? Well, you don't know. So somebody amends that paperwork and sends it back, and you get your first approval. Life is good, so we got that, but that could be pretty instantaneous, or it could be X amount of time. And then it needs to go to a second approver, and the second approver says, additional information is missing, we need some more paper. So it goes back, and it sends it back over here, tracks down the missing information. And then it comes back, and then we find the paperwork, we go back and we get that second approval, right? And this is all the manual process. And this happens, especially, I want to say that, I hate to say this, but public sector do this quite a bit, this manual. Higher ed also has been doing this, although they've been trying to do this. I want to say healthcare, you know, you guys hopefully continue to move, but federal definitely there. And then automotive, I want to say that automotive, I remember working in supply chain back in the 80s, and you know, we talked about all the challenges with the automotive industry and everything. So I'm hoping you guys are producing great cars, right? So there's more automation and self-driving now, right? So, so you get that final approval, and you complete that data entry, meaning you take the paper and you actually key it in the system. So this is the typical manual process. It doesn't matter if it's an HR transaction, if it might be even a purchase requisition on the financial side, but whether you have 2 approvers, 5 approvers, you know, that's all to be determined. It's all done manually, right? Now with an automated solution, again, this is something that we've worked with clients, we try to take it and say, do that first request here electronically. So remember I said, get rid of the paper and do it online. So bring that form online, it automatically routes it for workflow. No interoffice mail, none of that. the minute I submit it, it's in your inbox for approval. That's the effect that you want. And because it's in the system, you can have a status that it went to your inbox and you sat on it for 3 weeks. Okay, that would be an audit trail, so everything is stamped, and you get your first approval. And even if he needs more additional information, could go back right away and then get the additional information and then come back and get your first approval. And then goes to the second. Remember, the second one wants some more info. Maybe they got the info that they needed, but at the end, there's 4 boxes that's opportunity for taking that activity resource, people resource, time, and all of that to go do other things. Use that time to go coach your employees, go on a vacation, de-stress, or analyze data, higher value added work instead of the mundane of working in a manual process. This here is pretty common, we see it a lot. And people will tell me that instead of filling in a piece of paper, I have a system that's a PDF form that I fill in. Well, that PDF form that you fill in is still disconnected from your system. And by that, you're still in some ways manual. You might be typing it in a little better, but it may not be doing all the validation of your positions and your departments and all of that. And so it's not quite the electronic automated yet in doing that. So I have a county that actually did that. They have a whole bunch of smart PDFs, they call it. They have a PDF for every form that they need to do, but it was outside. And they had the same challenges that was here. So what they did was got rid of those smart PDF and brought it online into PeopleSoft, do the form there, route it, and they got rid of all their smart PDFs. So even though they thought that was electronic, it wasn't electronic PDF, but it wasn't going to optimize their business process. So the concept is very easy. I'll throw all of this out there. Whether your HR, whatever that transaction, whatever that paper form, any paper form or external source, because it could be that smart PDF, it could be another system they have you log it in, but the fact that it's outside of PeopleSoft, you're outside of the process. So that's one scenario. Then any PeopleSoft transactions, sometimes even the transactions causes problems. That can also be reviewed. And then, you know, if you're how many of you use manager self-service in PeopleSoft? Okay, healthcare, but you guys do not. That means everything goes back to HR to do via some paper process. So if you're not using self-service, if you are, that's another area where if you're using manager self-service, they're still saying it's not intuitive enough for the managers, you know? So you get that. But it doesn't matter what those sources are. The idea is to bring it online, have a user interface that match your business requirements. Your healthcare, what are your healthcare? If you're public sector, if you're automotive, what are those things that make it a simplified and automated transaction for you to put that electronic request? Use inside of PeopleSoft your electronic workflow approval to route. The technology is there. You may not be utilizing it, but it's there for you to do it. And this is the kicker. Upon final approval, if you're the last person in that approval process, in my example I had 2, but you can have 5, you can have 10. Usually the last person in HR is HR. The person in HR might go to my manager, go to his manager, go over and get budget approval, but it always comes back to HR. And HR is going to do that final approval in the system, approved. And it's going to automatically update PeopleSoft for you. You're not going to go into PeopleSoft and key that all in off of paper, punch it all in, do the salary change, do the promotion, do the location change. The idea is to let that transaction collected at once automatically update that for you. And as a result of that, you will have that electronic retention and audit trail. Auditors come in and they want to audit 5 transactions out of your 100. You go in the system and pull it up. And they say, who approved it? When did they approve it? What's your process? It's all there. And that, again, is where you use the system to automate that versus the other way around. So I'll show you a couple use cases. So that's the concepts. Those are the concepts around that. I'll show you a few use cases here of real customers that had paper challenges, manual process challenges, and you guys can see for yourself. We'll skip the financial ones. Here's a paper form, right? There you go. Manually filled in. at all the room for mistakes. You know, if I'm changing my work location, then do my work location. Well, how am I supposed to know that? You know, you give me this form, I'm gonna try to fill everything in. But I'm not asking for a work location, so I'm gonna confuse HR when you see the form. So it's gonna cause some problems in that approval process. And you see at the bottom, since my mouse isn't working, at the bottom is the approval process. Send it inter-office mail, get it signed there. So this is a pretty common, I think in public sector we see it quite a bit. We see it in higher ed, we see it in the federal government. And I'm gonna say you guys have it in automotive too, if everybody wants things on paper. And this was their process. This was their process. Fill it in on paper, have a paper, get the first one, paper again, go to the second one, paper, and then manually key it in. Pretty common. And this is the results that they did. Their driver for doing it was budget cuts at the county. And so they were looking at what they were doing and they were trying to figure out how to do reduction. I never want to be responsible for reduction of resource reductions within an organization, but I like to believe that they took that resource and put them in another position and gave them something more exciting to do. However, if you take a look at this, they do about 5,400 of those per year across the county, which is made up of multiple departments, right? They spend about 1.5 hours per personnel action at a cost that they calculated of $63 per personnel action. And that they spend about $340,735, these are their numbers, per year on that. So that's how they started to do their ROI. They costed out what they would spend on doing that. And then if they were to do automation, what would happen? So they had a lengthy turnaround time due to error-prone paper forms and manual approval process. And I just talked about that, right? And then after they automated, the first year alone, they estimated back a 300% ROI. So that's pretty significant, right? And that the online personnel actions automated hundreds of their different action reasons. So it doesn't matter if it's a termination, a leave, a hire, a promotion, a location change, a data change, a salary. It automated all of their transactions. The turnaround time to do that required fewer staff, which was part of their objective. They had better visibility and accountability. And 50 payroll clerks across 27 departments basically became much more efficient and probably was able to move on to other things. So this is the county of Solano in California, and we've done this in other public sector organizations as well, even at the state level. Because if a county, states are made up of multiple counties, at a state, it's the whole state being able to do a very similar process like this across all of their counties. This is a financial one. Since you're not interested in, we're going to skip it. But you know, they had a lot of manual processes around just depositing cash, paper to create a deposit slip, manually get it approved, you know, and all of that outside of the system. So let me just, this is their process, and I will show you just very quickly there. Basically, paper and data entry. They had a scan and paper process, and it was disjointed within the system. Basically, what they ended up doing was using that same concept. Everything online in one single transaction, routed for workflow approval internally. At the end of the day, instead of scanning and running deposit slips between departments via inter-office, it was all done online, and basically what they did was streamlined and simplify their AR deposit transaction, just getting money in the bank and getting approval on that. All their supporting documentation was electronic. There's no reason to take a piece of paper, put a paper clip behind it, put 3 and send it across. Just attach, scan and attach, take a picture and attach, and put it on the transaction, route it for workflow approval. Printing available, okay, it is available because that change management drove them to still provide that printing option. But I like to believe over time printing goes away. And all of their workflow was automated such that the money went into the bank, into the treasurer's office ASAP. So money is in the bank ASAP, and their financial reports are complete and they basically streamline what they consider to be a pretty complicated, time, error-prone process on the financial side. But nobody in here is financial, so we're gonna move on. I'm gonna go back to HR, and see my audience here is all HR, so I picked the right number. But I'll show you the one that I went through yesterday, because this continues to be an area where we work quite a bit with PeopleSoft customers. I would say in the federal government, the concept of hiring me and having me fill in all of the forms I need to do is still paper-based. The public sector, probably so still as well, okay? You might be using PeopleSoft to do some of it after I become an employee. Healthcare, how are you guys doing on onboarding?
And it's all been within this year, finally automated.
You automate it, okay, awesome. And then I would say automotive, no, you guys are paper-based. Are you doing better in your global world?
Very depending again on
Yeah.
hourly or salary population is
Yeah.
different.
But this process that I showed yesterday, this is a real example. This is their diagram of how they do their current process. And if you look at it, there's a paper, there's a paper, there's a paper, including creating the manila folders, manual data entry, read paper and put it in. And then they scan, they actually do a scan, right? And they create more folders depending on the department you're in. So HR gets a folder, payroll gets a folder. And then they key more stuff in the system, and they get all the forms to be filled in, and that's all done paper. And then they scan everything again. So this is their current process, and they said, we do too much hiring for us to keep doing this. And so when they went and looked at their process for opportunities change, where you see the circles is what they left, and everything else that's paper, manual, or scan, or manual data entry, we got out of their process. So this is a good example of taking your process, entire paper process of onboarding an employee after you make that hire, and optimizing it to get your people to be more efficient, and using systems and technology to do that. So this is their new one, and in their new one, even though they need to do something, it's done electronically, not on paper. Everything is go to the system, look at it there, review it, press a button. So everything that they normally would have done here, even scanning, where they need to scan 10 documents, they don't have to do it. It's electronic. What do I mean by that? If you're creating it electronically like a PDF, your W-4, your state forms, all the policies you have them sign, they sign it with electronic signature, date, timestamp. You create a PDF immediately with it, and you can have an entire folder, zip file of all those PDFs that you just move in. Why do you need to scan it? Just move those PDFs into wherever your location is for storage. And so that concept has helped, get rid of those people that are scanning, and those people that need to come pick up all that paper and go scan it. You can save a lot of costs from that process as well. So this used to be down here a scan to a document management image now. Now it's all electronic. Just check it in. That's all we're doing there. And then everything is in the system already. So they're just reviewing. They really play a role of reviewing, even on that final hire. Remember, I always say, any time of automation, you want to have somebody do the final review. They're going to press a button, and that press of the button is going to automatically create door swung in your system, my payroll direct deposit, load my tax information, put my direct deposit in there, create my emergency contact, all of that information, go ahead and have it automatically done. We don't need HR to key that in. So people that hire, I had a client that hires 65 people a week. And you know what she did every week? She had a pattern. Monday was orientation. She got all her packets back by Wednesday. By the end of the week, she keyed it all in, right? And then on Monday, she started again with 65 hires. And so we were right in there to help them do their implementation, not this client. And she saw the benefits of that immediately. All she did was go in and see the 65 people. She can trust that all the validation and everything was done correctly, and then just review it and press the button to create the update. So in this world here, all of these forms, These are forms that I actually collect. Some are very common, the W-4, the I-9, the federal government has certain forms. But if I ask, what's your packet? There's gonna be 50–60% that's identical, and then after that, everything's unique to your industry, your business, your business, your business. And even within automotive, you're gonna have different things. But the idea is not to give it as a paper, take it back and bring it all online. And so I'll show you how we do this very quickly. This concept here, this is all inside of PeopleSoft. This is one of our add-ons, but the idea is that it doesn't matter what it is, you're gonna define the what, okay? Very common section would be the payroll and tax, I-9, W-4, direct deposit. But policies are gonna be unique to you. Campus map is gonna be unique to you. Your dress code policies and all that is gonna be unique to you. But the idea is just put it all online, let them read it, check a box, and get electronic signature. You don't need a PDF if you don't want it. If you want to generate it, you could generate it. But if your auditors came in, you just pull up this person and look at it, and you will see these date time stamps on everything they've done. 2 years from now, 5 years from now. If I challenge you and say, and I was inside of Oracle before, coming in from the PeopleSoft acquisition, and they required us to sign a non-compete, I guess, or some form of a document. So when I left, I was hoping they didn't have it. You know what? I bet you out of all documents, they saved that one. Because they hired so many people through that acquisition, I was like, oh, will they really be able to transfer all of that information and have the record keeping? So the one document, I challenged whether they had it. I hate to tell you that, but they did. So however they did it, they had it in their system. But bring it all online, get rid of that paper, use electronic signature and audit trail. The auditors come in, you're covered. Doesn't matter if you're hiring a person or doing a termination, the same concept applies to a termination. Here's an example of the W-4. We also do this for all the state tax forms. I know, Oracle has that as well that they just started to come out with. But the concept is you're going to collect the information, my name, my address, my social security once. And if I have 15 forms that require, it's automatically populated, and you only ask for the data that you need, and you sign everything with electronic signature. This becomes a PDF that your new hire can save to their drive. They're doing at home from their living room. You have a copy as well. And so nobody needs to scan or give you any paper. It is all in your system. So that concept, using PeopleSoft technology, it's all using PeopleSoft technology, you can also bring automation to it. Now, what if you had to fill in this whole process? This is actually keeping track of everything you need. But here's a button called Download Forms. You press that button, it creates a zip file for you. Get rid of scanning. Take that zip file there and just check it into your document management, wherever you're imaging. You don't need imaging. If you have a document management, put it in there. But everything that's signed there can be for you to review, and for me, as the new hire, have it on my home computer stored, and I don't even have to print it off. If I open it up, it looks like that W-4, etc. So that concept of downloading copies and having a record retention using document management is also very important. And at the end of the day, I'm back to my smiley face, right? Because upon final approval of that particular hire, you're going to press a button again, and that's going to update or create, either rehire or hire in that situation, update PeopleSoft. Again, no fat fingering, no reading off of forms. If it needs to go to payroll, go to benefits, go to HR, go to training, wherever you need to go, it will go ahead and automatically update that for you. And this is for those, especially for the federal, if you're a federal contractor, this is around employment eligibility, the I-9 process, and making sure that they're eligible. How many are using Department of Homeland Security? Going out to their website. You're in the federal, they do all sorts of other background check on you way before that. But if you are, we also have that integration. Again, today people, if they are required to use E-Verify Department of Homeland, they go on the website and they key in all the information. Doris Wong, Social Security, home address, my passport. We have it all inside of PeopleSoft already. we just pass that information via an integration to Department of Homeland Security, and they'll tell me she's good or no, she's not. And if she's not, there's a whole process, and we automate that process as well. Now, Oracle, just FYI for you, Oracle will not release this type of functionality because they have some contractual challenges with the Department of Homeland Security legally. So one of the things is that we have partnered with them to provide to PeopleSoft customers this integration for those that want it, because they've already said that they're not going to be able to do it, and they were looking for a partner to provide it. So we did work with them very closely to build this into the 9.2 and certify it with them. Just some other anecdotes. This has not to do with that other one, but I just thought I'd share again. If you do have today your onboarding still paper-based, these are some examples here of realized benefit. They expect it to go from 20 minutes to 5 minutes of processing data entry. They got better accuracy, so you can see some of the business value. They have huge audit and compliance requirements. So by having automation, it forces you to fill in what you need to fill in, when you need to fill it in, why you need to fill it in, and make sure all fields are entered and validated with the signature. So now the audit function on the back end becomes a very different function. They're not in there studying every folder. They go in the system, and over time, they also get that feeling, wait, it's all there. So all of a sudden, the whole audit and compliance function also changes. They might randomly now look at it instead of all the time. So these were some of the realized benefits in this one client, and planned benefits. They knew they were going to save on postage because they were hiring 5,000 people per month. And they were FedExing out that paper packet at $15 in FedEx. So they were overnighting it to their new hire, so they knew they were going to save money there. But what they said was it wasn't just $15 because the information comes back and it's incomplete. So then they have to send it back out to them via FedEx again. So then they spend another $15. And the poor new hire has to pay $15 too. So that also goes away because if it's electronically, remember those arrows back and forth, it's all done there. More accurate data, they got rid of their W2Cs, at least reduced that. The environment, much less paper. Office Depot and the scanners and the imaging people was wondering what happened to their POs, right? But the company saved money. They were more innovative in the marketplace, and they took those zip files instead of scanning and had it automatically moved to their document management. So that was that particular client, and just some comments here. They were a staffing company, so these were their comments there, and I won't spend too much time on that. And then I've got a few minutes left, so very quickly. I kind of went through a lot of concepts. I'm sure each of you have your own challenges around there. I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but there's technology out there, there's strategy out there. You have to get funding and commitment from your management. Change management is a big thing. But identify what it is that you want. Where are your opportunities for improvement? And in HR, there's a bunch. In financials, there's a bunch. Nobody in here is around student campus solutions, but there's even opportunities there as well. And then there's a whole bunch of technology, and you add that mobile component to it as well, because the pressure is going to continue to be there. You don't want to be mobile. The world wants you to be mobile, right? So there's going to continue to be challenges. So there's a lot of PeopleSoft technology there to be able to do that. And then the last part at the bottom there is, of course, there's partners out there like ourselves that help clients do that. So you want to set your goals, define the objective. I would say don't try to boil the ocean, but know the strategy, pick your big bang for the buck. I believe in that a lot. Get your biggest bang for the $1 if that's all you have. Set those, don't go big bang versus phase. Phase is a better approach. You know why? Because show you're making a difference, and then you'll keep getting more support. They'll keep wanting more. Then they'll say, what about that? What about that? What about that? And that's how you start to drive change within the organization. Understand your business process, review it. Don't implement the exact same business process because you should have an opportunity to X things out, right? Streamline that process, find that simplification. You're gonna have those retention, audit trail retention policies will change as well. No scanners, no imaging. If you need to save those 10 documents, all those W4, you don't need to go scan it, it's create as a PDF. Create that retention strategy. So this is around selecting that storage option. It could be a PeopleSoft, could be a file server, it could be a document management. And define your return on investment. Okay? And with that, I'm back to my smiley face. And I am done. This is pretty much just what I did there. My contact, who we are, and I'll open up for questions, otherwise you guys could run to. Look at that, I have 9 minutes. Questions? What do you guys think? You learn something from it, you could go back and talk to your organizations as you kind of look at it. That's what a lot of people do. They look at their processes and then they realize, you know, if they're talking to the right people, organizations want to change. The question is whether there's that opportunity to change or not.
So I have a question, like in our benefit department and all the applications and stuff that they enroll into management paper, right?
Yes.
So if they do that stuff online, will that populate
Yes.
into PeopleSoft where we're not having the data entry person?
So like if you're using Ben Admin for benefits,
We are.
so what the classic scenario is typically it's all done on paper.
Right.
You know, I'm one of these people that don't jump from job to job, so I don't go through benefit enrollment too much. However, I would use the analogy of my kids' school registration. I have 2 kids, and it was paper-based, and they come out in August with these 2 packets, right? And the packet at the top has name, grade, address, and you know how many times, so my kids' names are very long with the last name of Lagarejo, spell it, right? And I chose long names for their first name, and they asked for the middle name, and I chose a long middle name. So I'm like writing, and my writing gets really bad after a while. The concept when you go electronic, ask for it once. One time. Brittany Diana Lagarejos, that's her name. Brandon Mark Lagarejos. Get the Social Security, get the emergency, whatever you need, address. 15 forms required. Could be benefits, could be an I-9, could be a W-4, could be your state tax forms, it automatically populates it. Now you got rid of data entry. The only thing is to make sure the first time you ask your employee to fill it in, that you confirm that it's correct. Because if they put in instead of 555555555, they decide the last one should be a 6 or they fat fingered it, then it's gonna put a 6 on everything. So we do have recourse to go correct it, but you want to get, the concept is get it done once and then populate it. So in the case of benefits, you can have that all automatically filled in. You only ask what you need in those particular electronic transactions. So if you need to collect dependents, or you need to collect your child's or dependent's social security number, then you would prompt them for it. Otherwise, you don't need to ask for the employee information. So that concept, and then you get a PDF of the document, and you could store it, press a button, it's gonna update your benefit statements for you, instead of you going to key it in. So that's the concept there. Yes?
I would say that, you know, I absolutely agree. I mean, moving to digital is great, but the reality is sometimes, because of legal reasons, you need to keep paper. So now, it was coming now from the previous conference when they were explaining to us 50% of the invoices are still paper, and also you need to manage a certain percentage of paper you need to keep. So my question also would be, what is the view in terms of managing those cases? Because I saw where is HR work going in terms of OCR reading of these documents, integrating in PeopleSoft, or this OCR reading, storage in file servers in PeopleSoft? What is kind of the trend you see into this? Because the percentage will exist. No matter what.
Let me tell you what the reality is. The reality is, so you're HR, all of you guys are HR, and there's the legal side to HR. So I'll tell you exactly what I see out there. Everybody wants the paper. because they're worried about legal. Healthcare, I'm sure that's one of the things. So they will say, okay, do it electronically, but give me a paper copy as well. And I'm always saying, do you really need that copy paper? So one of the trends I've been working with them on is, which ones do you really need? Because if it's signing a campus map and acknowledged, you really need a paper for it. But if it's signing my dependents and certifying that they are truly mine, we've seen people even go as far as doing a wet signature. They won't accept the electronic. So what you do is you have to look at the type of document it is and then determine, is it something, and you have to play hardball, because it's very easy for the business to say, I need everything, because they don't want to change, right? But what we try to do is help them understand, which ones do you need and why do you need it, and how often does that legal situation comes up? Well, one legal situation could be the end of a small company, right? However, technology also allows you to print it when you need it. So that concept has to come in too. You don't need to create all of this up front. It's in the system. But let's say 3 years from now, you got legal and you need that document. It's in the system. Go print it when you need it and show it. It saves the date time stamp and everything you need there. So that concept, you have to educate people. You know, it's a change management. And so the natural reaction always is, give me a copy of everything. And then I challenge them to say, do you really need it? And the answer to that is no, they don't. And then you make them really look at why they need it. And then even if they only need it for 0.001% of the time, are you really going to go and invest in creating all of that now, when you have the capability in the system to generate it when you need it? It's called on demand. You can create that PDF, the data's there, it just populates the PDF. Everything is effective data, so it knows the date 2 years ago when the form was in effect versus now. So that concept is a concept that people have to really wrap around and determine how to be more efficient, even on the retention side. But legal does drive, I don't want to say bad behavior, but it does drive people wanting to hang on to that paper. And you have to really work and consult with them to have them understand, and then that change management and how to use the system to solve what they need. Worst case, call IT and pull the data out, and if you don't have it generated already, just pull the data out and put it in XMLP and you've got it, So that type of thinking we've been working with them, for them to be more efficient. And they will admit that it's very unlikely if they hire 5,000 people, they're going to, even get 10 legal situations on it. They're saying, maybe once every 3 years, So, you look for that efficiency. In the meantime, if you're paper-based today, you're saving everything, right? So yeah, it is, it's a mindset. And then I also have people say, well, there's people that won't sign the forms because they're union. And then I still challenge them too. You know how I challenge them? I said, well, are you 100% paper today? Yes. Okay, you have some people that won't sign it, you're union people. But what if they did want to sign it? So I use the analogy of 0 to 100%. There's a lot of numbers in between. If you could get 50% of your people to be automated, you're going to be that much efficient. You can get 95% of your people to be automated and deal with that 5%. Because I know you guys have factory workers and they may not have a computer.
All of our
Right?
salaried people do stuff self-service, just the hourly people won't.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of conditions depending on the industry you're in. So we've seen it all, right? But when they say, no, my hourly people won't fill it in, are you going to make no change because of that? Or are you going to get 50% or 60%, whatever that percentage is? You want to make progress. And so we had those chats and they go, okay, Doris, let's go, okay, let's go, Put a kiosk in your, your HR there for those that don't have a computer. Let them come in and do it online there. So, for those hourly, we see that a lot. For the, people that are more exempt and salary, high-tech people, they don't even have a problem. They just go do it. They expect it. In fact, if you gave them a pile of paper, they would say, huh? I got to write Brittany, Diana, Lagarejos 15 times, And I have 2 kids, so that means 30 times, So yeah, those are the trends. it's a mindset. I hate to say it's a change management. Each organization is different. Each industry is different. Out of all of them, I say you're the most progressive, so I would expect you guys to be more automated because I see where healthcare is going.
But I know what you mean. We have certainly have unions, many of them.
Right.
But we had to put down the firm foot and said, I mean, we transitioned in.
If you got transition
Yeah,
issues.
but we have
They even,
kiosks.
they even fight direct deposit.
They what?
So they even fight direct deposit.
But we can't mandate that.
You
In
can't
some states you
mandate
can.
it.
Huh?
Said in some states you can.
Period.
And I will tell you, I've had clients that the first step of an electronic solution usually is, do you agree to the electronic solution, right? The electronic process. You have the option to opt out. So we provide that option. And I've had clients go, take that opt out. We don't want to give it. So that's your mandate strategy, right? Then there's those that say, you got to give it because otherwise you're worried about a lawsuit, you know? So we ask each client, what do you want to do? There's those that are really tough to say, if they don't want to do it electronically, they don't belong here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but
You know, but they might need to worry about a lawsuit because somebody might put a discrimination lawsuit against them. But that's not our call, that's our client's call to make those business choices. And I've seen the tough ones. Take it off, they either do it or they're not coming aboard. That's pretty tough, huh? You can't do it in public sector, you probably can't do it in federal too. Automotive, you got unions that manage you, so. Somebody-
Only about half of our clients are unions, so some we can do more.
Yes, you could do the other 50%. And then that 50% can do it at home in their living room and be ready to go on day one. Because it can all be done even before they come in. Now your hourly people, I've had the discussion as well. If they do it at home, do I need to pay them for that hour that they do it?
that's good. We do have
And so that will come up. Some people choose to pay. Some people say, nope, if you really want to be paid, then wait till day one. But again, it's going to be a business decision. And so we've seen that flavor too, right? I must pay them. So one of my clients decided to give everybody that fills it in a $25 Amazon card or something. So that was their way of doing it.
that.
Right?
Do they tax them?
And then I don't know if they tax them, maybe, you know.
If they need to, yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your time. I hope you guys got something out of this to take back and enjoy the rest of your evening. We're done
you.
for session.
Thank you.
Thank you.